Right, it's still good morning, Anambra, and we are delighted to have you here as we look at some issues that affect us. And this morning we'll be talking about protecting the unborn babies, protecting the unborn babies. And a question that really comes to mind when we talk about this is that, an unborn baby stays in the mother's womb. And of course, one assumes the mother, the covering shields the baby. And on this program this morning, we are going to really look at what that means to protect an unborn baby. And of course, why do we need to talk about protecting an unborn baby? And so much more. Glad to have you once again. My name is Nonye Okoye.
And of course, Iberi Ugonna. She said it all. We'll get to find out that because there's some questions that's been going through my head when we talk about protecting the unborn baby. Are there two people, or is it still the mother? All this and more we'll get to find out.
All right. We have a guest already seated in the studio this morning, a consultant gynecologist with Amako General Hospital here in Oka, Dr. Louis Nwajiako. He is also the secretary, Nigeria Medical Association, Anambra State Branch. Glad to have you in the studio, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Right.
You're welcome. Now, just like the picture I painted earlier, when you talk about an unborn baby, one assumes the covering of the mother shields the baby. Now, why do we really need to, talk about protecting an unborn baby?
Critical. Of course, that child is the leader tomorrow. And if you want to protect that child, it probably means you need to protect the mother because that's the vessel. So they can't really come in isolation as it is. So we're protecting that child because with regards to the right of the child cannot protect him or herself. So the society needs to do more from the mother's angle, from the government angle, from the social aspect in terms of the society. Because that safe child that comes gives you a safe tomorrow for the country, for the community, and for the family, as it is.
All right. It's quite amazing because I'm going to ask the question I just asked again now. Protecting the unborn baby. When a pregnant woman is attacked in the act of domestic violence, how many victims are there?
Of course, two victims are there. One, that woman who can take up the issue and gets herself protected, and then that baby that cannot protect him or herself. These are two people there.
A lot of people have argued over time that the baby in the mother's womb has not turned to life yet. It's still in that stage where it cannot do anything, it cannot own up to anything, it has no right or whatever. What's your thought on that?
Not absolute. If you say that child doesn't have a right, then you begin to ask yourself, when does life begin in the first place? And that drags you to religious component of it. But we know from the medical aspects, right from conception, when fertilization occurs, life has actually set in. Because if that fertilization didn't occur, it simply means that life cannot take off. So the right of that child is also inherent there with regards to the mother and that of the society as well.
All right. Now, let's begin to look at, what actually are the signs or likely signs that one can see and that could suggest danger or threat to the life of an unborn child. That will consequently lead us to thinking about protecting the life of that baby. What are the signs?
I wouldn't really understand exactly what you mean by the signs. Is it complications of pregnancy?
A sign that will make you think a baby is under threat.
Okay.
And now will lead you to thinking about how to protect that baby.
Yes, the child will be under threat, most importantly with regards to the state of the mother. Once anything affecting, you have an item you're conveying, sometimes you see them, they write fragile, do not tamper with. It means you have to protect that cage on its own. Because anything that damages that damages the content. That's simply what it means. So you can look at maybe psychological issues on the mother, medical issues on the mother, and then other forms of interference with regards to the law affecting that woman.
Now, so basically, it's the woman that you look at, when you talk about protecting the unborn child.
Absolutely.
Okay, now are there laws? Do we have laws, that protect unborn children, and also talking about abortion, which is a threat to the unborn baby?
There are laws.
Let's know about them.
Thank you. For instance, if you're looking at the right of a child, society like you have in Nigeria, we don't have a liberal abortion law. It's restrictive. That simply means for instance, the law says before a woman is allowed to have a process of abortion on her, there should be a consensus agreement by 2 medical doctors. And it must have been proven that pregnancy puts the life of that woman at risk. So in that circumstance, you find that the law with regards to the society protects that child, ultimately. So it is only at the expense of the life of the woman that Nigerian law allows that pregnancy to be terminated by agreement by 2 doctors.
But it looks as if it's really not the case here in Nigeria, as abortion is the order of the day for young women. And you talked about 2 medical doctors agreeing on the basis that pregnancy is a threat to the woman carrying it. But these days, most doctors don't even think of being in agreement with anybody. The lady comes and explains to the doctor, and boom, abortion has taken place. So how are we actually, following the laws you just talked about?
No, it's most of the abortion that are actually procured are not even done through the legal aspect, the doctor himself. We have criminal abortion. If you try to take that, maybe look at the records from maybe the police and all the rest, you find out that ultimately most of the cases that are recorded don't even come from doctors. Side chemists, some herbalists, some people who claim what they are not, are the people who offer these services to some of these young women. So it's actually, you can't just say probably it's coming actually from a doctor. Abroad, where they regulate their services, health services, the way it should be, of course, abortion where you have it legal or free is a situation where you now have those services that are rendered by probably those who are qualified to render them. And that is why we have the largest number of complications in terms of abortion with regards to sub-Saharan Africa. The reason is because even when abortion is procured, it's actually coming from those who are not qualified to offer such services.
All right. Now, when we like earlier when you talked about knowing the state of the mother to determine the state of the baby. Now, let's look at, possible causes, what can actually cause threat to life of a baby. What are the causes?
There are different forms. For instance, a drug the woman is taking could hamper the process of development of that child. The services the woman is procuring could also hamper that process. For instance, it is expected by the Safe Motherhood Initiative. It's actually an initiative that is there to take care of that pregnant woman to getting a safe child, a child that is will be quite productive to the society. So you find that ultimately, what happens at the end of the day is that if she procures that antenatal care from a quack, or she doesn't accept the services properly, it simply means that the life of that child is in danger. At the first trimester, pregnancy is actually divided into 3 stages: first trimester, second, and the third. At the early period, there is a risk of abortion, spontaneous. It occurs naturally on its own. There is also risk of deformities. The hand is developing, it doesn't develop well, probably because you are taking one toxic drug. At the end of it all. And we say some of these drugs are teratogenic. So they destroy a component of development at the first 3 months of development of that baby. If that woman is accessing services or care from somebody who is not trained to offer that, that puts that baby at risk. We also have the second trimester. We have still challenges, complications that arise from that first trimester, going through the second trimester. And during the third trimester, we expect deliveries to be conducted, is it not? And you find out most of the issues that border on the death of the mother or baby. Before I came in here, an orthopedic surgeon called me and said, why is it an increase in problems with regards to development the hand? When the baby comes out, the hand is deformed or has a fracture or has one way it cannot, some what we call neurological deficiencies. For instance, he was telling me about a woman, they were conducting a delivery in a maternity home, and there's a condition we call shoulder dystocia. If you're not trained to handle it, the risk there is that you put the life of that baby at risk. The head of the baby gets delivered, but the shoulder doesn't come out. It gets trapped there. If you're not trained, you don't have the requisite skill to conduct that delivery, you come up with the complication he was talking about. The baby comes out, is not able to use the hand, is limping, or what problem that may come at the end of it all. So you can see some of the problems that will come at this stage because care is not offered or the wrong care is actually offered.
All right, we will still get back, to look at how best to handle these issues that you've just spelled out. But before we do that, there's this thing that is coming up in my mind as a mother. When a woman takes in and is having droppings and stuff like that, there are specialists that handle them, that really take care of them from 1 month to 3 months and certify that they are now good to go. Tell us more about this situation, because sometimes a woman may take in, the first month, second month, and may see drops here and there. Tell us more and what the woman can actually do to help protect the life of that unborn baby.
Thank you. Actually, we call that threatened miscarriage. Commonly in the medical parlor called threatened abortion. That means that pregnancy is threatening to go. It's a complication, just one of the complications of pregnancy, the threatened miscarriage. So you find out what the doctor requires in that circumstance in attending to the woman is to identify what is the cause of that threat. In identifying the cause, he was able to address it. The next thing that happens is that he could offer that woman a bed rest, if possibly there's no reason for which it's been found out attributable to that. Then he can offer the woman bed rest. That is one major component that helps majority of them. In other extension, he maybe if the cause is as a result of malaria or other things, then he actually should offer them treatment for malaria. Then if it's as a result of the drugs the woman has taken or other issues, he can actually withdraw some of the drugs as it is. And then there are some minor support, medical support, drugs that can be offered to the woman to actually support the pregnancy to progress further.
All right, we're still talking about protecting the unborn baby, and it's becoming interesting because there's a whole lot of questions we'll still ask, and of course a lot of answers will be coming your way. But right now, let's go for a short break. We'll go into the streets to hear what people have to say about protecting the unborn baby, and when we return, Good Morning Anambra continues. Don't go anywhere.
Required for a pregnant woman. As we know, a pregnant woman is not supposed to eat any kind of food. We are supposed to avoid junks. A pregnant woman is supposed to take a lot of vegetables, a lot of water, and then fruits too, because whatever you eat enhances the growth of the baby. So anything we eat affects the baby, the growth and development of the baby. So if you are not taking an adequate food, it means the baby will not grow well. And again too, we need to attend antenatal care. Always, we make sure that we heed the advice given to us by the doctors.
I open a dime question now, they're very careful. Oto isi we need na na modern fana na edina akoko. Antu ana ejo no ogu dishon na anwucho ogwe anya. Oya na anwu mmiri of maka ụmụ na nwụrụ mmiri of mo nwe ba na agbo oluwa. Na eme ụmụazị na etiti isi. Oya nwa na course ma nwa dime na anwu mmiri of mo ofuma. Ebe ọ na edina dị very neat. Watago ma ihe ọ na-eyi na arụ maka infection. Watarụ ya ni na yo ye. Ọ na dị very careful. Oya na ali fruits. Here the kapopo, orange, fruits, and additional the fruits. I am not going to watch on one. No more motor, the very healthy.
the pregnant women going to antenatal, taking their drugs, staying healthy, sleeping on nets, taking enough water, taking good care of themselves, taking balanced diets, enough vegetable. Those things are okay for protecting unborn child.
A pregnant woman have to eat balanced diet, have to go for medical checkup. That's at the antenatal always. A pregnant woman have to take her bath at least 3 times in a day. Wear a clean clothes. Make sure he take her routine drug. She has to sleep under the nets, protect herself from any mosquito bites.
All right, good to have you back. It's still Good Morning Anambra if you're just joining us, and we are talking about protecting the unborn baby. Well, we've gone to the street. We are back. And of course, we still have our doctor in the house who's been talking about it, and we want to hear from you and know what are your reactions to what people have talked about. I saw you behind the camera. There was one of the women and you were laughing. What would you have to say about their reactions?
I think most of the contributions were quite right, in the sense that they talked about taking adequate water, taking the proper food, but whatever the woman takes gets to the baby ultimately. So taking care of the woman is quite proper. Attending your antenatal clinic when you are expected to do that, engaging yourself in the antenatal services, and then the lectures that go on. But there was this particular one he talked about. He talked about the issue of if you don't take water adequately, you have I can't remember what exactly. In TYC, it doesn't correlate. Actually, in TYC, doesn't happen to a child while it's still inside the baby, inside the womb, as it is. So we know dehydration will cause a depression. There's something we call the fontanelle. When a baby is delivered, there's a depression here, the anterior fontanelle there that comes. Is actually there. God left it for the growth of the brain. The baby continues to develop in terms of the brain up to 3 to 5 years. That place closes about 18 months, just roughly 2 years it closes. So most times that depression there is a space God has allowed for the development of that brain.
All right, we will still get to talk about other myths associated with what you take and what it causes to the baby, which you're going to explain to us. But that will be after you must have explained this cryptic pregnancy. What actually is that?
On a social aspect, it is killing our women. In African setting, that barren woman, that woman that is not pregnant, is taken as an outcast. So the challenge of infertility has pushed a lot of women in our society. And if you read through the papers, the news media lately, majority of the cases that are reported about cryptic pregnancy happens in southeast Nigeria. So it's a major issue that is being talked about currently. And what is cryptic pregnancy? In the medical field, it doesn't essentially exist. It is a situation where somebody claims he or she is pregnant, but medical investigations nowhere says this woman is pregnant. Laboratory investigations come, they say she's not pregnant, pregnancy test negative. She does an ultrasound. The scan says no pregnancy. We see the woman parading around. And that is actually what most groups do in the southeast now, particularly Anambra State. It's being reported widely. A situation, a woman is not pregnant, because he's seen one trado or whoever is involved, the person says he's pregnant. And they do these things, arranging it with some of these young girls that are not pregnant. Some of these girls that are actually pregnant outside wedlock. So they have an arrangement with them. Such an arrangement is such that they keep telling these women that have issue of infertility that they are pregnant. And there's no laboratory, no ultrasound, and no doctor can detect that pregnancy. They continue to give them drugs that will stop them from observing their menses. So they will wait until 9 months, a time that will coincide with some of these girls they've gotten from the society who don't want their pregnancy. They arrange with them and give them money when the baby delivery is done, and then transfer the baby to the woman under some drugs, telling the woman she went through labor, pour blood around after delivery, all sorts of things they do, and they give the woman that baby.
Okay, there's this question I want to ask now before we go. It looks as if my producer is beginning to signal that it's time for us to leave. But let me ask this question. In New Jersey, in the U.S., courts over the years have ruled that children can sue parents later in life for damages suffered in the womb. Now, my question is this applicable in Nigeria? If it's not, what do we have to start doing to solve issues like this? Because I would also want you to touch, the diets, what the mothers, what pregnant women take. That probably, because most of them have this nonchalant attitude, let me eat whatever I want to eat, let me enjoy my life. Even when when you eat this or drink this, it could affect the baby. So do we have things like this in Nigeria where the child grows up and get to sue the parents because mom was the cause of my deformed hand?
That right is not, it's there, but it's not being exercised. We're not exercising it. There are a lot of good things Nigeria have actually copied, but most of us are not exploring it. The Child Right Act protects that child equally, but we're not exploring it as it is. So some of these laws are here with us. But the issue is that, of course, you know how children are being cautioned abroad. If you utilize the method we use here, you'll be, somewhere in the prison. But here, the way we scold them, the way we handle them, is absolutely not the way the white man does. And that brings you to what I talked about earlier, that child that is in the womb has a right. If he's not exercising that right while he's still in the womb, he can still exercise that right when he's delivered. Then coming to the nutrition. Nutrition is a very important component in pregnancy. Usually we advise women to take anything you're comfortable with, but we rely largely on what we call balanced diets. Rely on your fruit, vegetable, take enough calories, that is your starch, but avoid things like alcohol and abuse of some of the drugs that we have in the society.
All right, we could go on and on, but at this point, we'd like to let you know that time is no longer a friend. But before we go, Doctor, one word, the best way to really protect the unborn child.
The best way to protect the unborn child is to protect the girl child. Protecting the girl child means offering the right education, and when that woman has grown, to get married, to have children, provide antenatal care, provide family planning services, and you have a safe child tomorrow.
All right. I'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Dr. Louis Nwajiako, for coming on the show. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me too. Thank you, Lisa.
All right, we thank you so much for watching. My name is Nonye Wokoye.